This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
Okay, so I need to know if this was always the plan, because when I saw that you were taking pictures for Architectural Digest,
Yeah.
that was my passion as a young child. I was either going to be an actor or an architect. I had 150 Architectural Digest magazines.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
So how does one find themselves as a photographer for this and then pivot into great improv? Or were they parallel tracks?
They were parallel. The photography gig was a job that I sought out because I was like a hobbyist photographer, right? Really enjoyed taking pictures, taking landscapes, but knew nothing about like studio lighting and how to light interiors, which is what I ended up shooting. I've shot, gosh, I don't know how many hundreds of homes over the course of 8 years, but I knew nothing about that side of things, right? But I started to, as I was tiptoeing my way into the improv and sketch world in Boston, I was like, okay, how does one pursue this and still make money? Because I was actually part of one of the very few improv theaters in the country. It's basically Second City and this theater called Improv Asylum in Boston that pays their main stage actors. So I was on their main stage cast. I was doing 8 shows a week. I was being paid not great, but I was saying, I'll be transparent about it. I think I was probably making at my height maybe $20,000 a year on stage at Improv Asylum, which was like amazing. Again, it's when I've gone through the UCB of the world, like in New York, and you're not paid anything. If anything, you're going into massive debt taking those classes and paying for coaches and teachers. I didn't realize at the time how extraordinary it was that like, hey, we're being paid to do this, which is incredible. But 20 grand is not enough to pay your rent and have a living. So I was like, you know what? I love photography. Let me see if there's a way to pursue photography while I'm also pursuing acting. And literally was trolling Craigslist, and this guy named Matt Murphy in Boston started this company called Boston Virtual Imaging. And they are primarily a photography company where real estate agents will hire you to come take really nice photos of high-end properties. And I sent him my resume of my personal stuff. And I was very transparent with him. I was like, I don't know the first thing about shooting real estate or shooting architecture, but I think like this portfolio shows that I have an understanding of light and exposure and composition. And you tell me, like, if you're willing to take a chance, I would love to at least shadow you and learn about this world. And he's a great dude and was, look, why don't you follow me around for 3 months? You can join me for whatever shoots you're available for. You'll get a sense for what the job is. And then I can start sending you out on your own if I feel like you're getting the hang of it. So I did that. And like over the course of 3 months, I learned a ton about not only the production side of things when you're shooting real estate and shooting architecture, but also the post-production side. Because a lot of it is, okay, now you've got 15 stills that you have to layer in Photoshop and perfect the lighting in each corner of each room that you're shooting, because you're moving around lights and sometimes the lights are visible in frame and you've got to clone them out or paste them out. So there was a lot of that I learned about too. But yeah, that turned into this brilliant thing where I was a contract employee. I was only shooting when I told him I was available. So if an acting gig came up, or if I was doing like a corporate training for improv, which happened a lot during the day, I would just say, hey, I'm booked out during this time. And he's like, great, I won't book you on shoots during that time. And there were, including Matt, there were 4 of us that were full-time photographers for this company. And it was the best. It was the perfect job. You know how everybody's in search of that like perfect job to accommodate auditions. It was that perfect job for me at the time, where it was just like I made good money doing it, but it was also as flexible as I needed it to be for what I knew was like my true passion, which was like this acting and comedy career that I was pursuing.
When I was looking at it too, I was like, here we go, flash forward like 15 years. And now we're all at home as actors having to work the camera and understand lights. And I wanted to, how directly did that translate? How immediately did that translate? Were you starting to tape and record sketches, or did it stay buried until the self-tape world came around? Like, where did
I definitely pursued it long before the self-tape world. I had this kind of perfect experience at Improv Asylum. As I was on stage doing a lot of improv and sketch, we had our lighting director at the time, who was literally like calling lights on our improv scenes, was this guy named Chris Loughran, and he was like a budding DP. And myself and my friends Evan Kaufman and Matt Catanzano, who were also like rising up through the ranks at Improv Asylum, knew that we were watching kind of Lonely Island and even before Lonely Island, some of the like short comedic films that people were putting out. And we were like, we need to be doing this. This is definitely has to be part of our journey. And Chris was in a place where he's, look, I'm trying to build my resume of like what I can shoot. So we had this kind of small team and a lot of other actors at Improv Asylum who would join us. And luckily, Evan Kaufman is a brilliant writer. Matt's a great writer, too. I think I've always had a writer's brain. So we just started writing stuff and shooting it. And some of those early sketches that we put on Improv Asylum's YouTube channel took off in a crazy way. Like we'd start to get hundreds of thousands of views on some of them, and some of them went really viral. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, this has to be part of our journey, I think, in order for us to make any career strides, especially because we were in Boston. So there are no agents in that town. There's not a lot of industry. So like we were like, if we want to do this for real, we've got to make a name for ourselves in whatever way we can. And that's been part of my journey throughout, is creating my own material. That's been a part of how I've made every single major step in my career, is like something came from something I created.
Okay, so then what brings you to New York? So just so people know, I'm going to timeline this. So like around 2004 is when you're in improv.
That's when I started taking improv classes in 2004.
So Boston, that's when you're doing Improv Asylum.
Yep. And for like basically a full decade, I was there. Maybe 9 years, but I was there just like fully immersed in that world. And that's where I got my 10,000 hours. Like the volume of shows that we did at Improv Asylum was crazy. Like 8 shows a week is insane. And we're talking theater in the round, 200-seat theater, sold out almost every night. So like you're learning how to play for general audiences, but you're also learning timing, and you're learning what works and what doesn't. And you're learning how to support your scene partners, and so many of the like critical lessons that I've carried throughout my whole career is like how to listen and how to respond and all that stuff. Yeah.
Which, especially on a show like Ghosts, when it's such a huge ensemble cast, like your foundational training could not have made you a better member to be a part of this specific
And what a dream, right? Like it very much felt like a filmed version of what I had been doing for years in Boston, but then at UCB in New York. I was on a sketch team at UCB. And it was like, this is the world I love. This is what I know how to do best.
You're
and
like,
I grew up on ensemble comedies.
I'm going to say it for them. They would be lucky to have you because of the experience you've had. Not many shows, especially of this time, operate like this anymore. On a comedic, this large of an ensemble, there's no other show.
No, I think it's really hard to do well.
Yeah.
And I think you've talked to some of my other castmates about this, but man, did we get lucky. But also like Liz Barnes and Tanis Vallely, who cast this thing, and Rosalie Joseph and Eric Goldberg, who I initially auditioned for in New York for it, but they were such a critical part of not only finding good people, but finding nice people. Yes. And like that was our showrunners too. Were like, look, in an ideal world, this show is going for 7+ seasons. So if we're going to be spending that much time with any of these people, we want them to be nice humans. Yeah. So they took a lot of time, like, we can talk about the whole audition process, but
let's do it. We're already here. Because then I'm going to jump back because I have some specific questions. But let's do it.
And I know you were talking about like what brought me to New York. I can touch on that briefly too.
Because I wanted to know, was SNL eventually, as an improver, especially if you're getting paid in Boston?
Yeah.
The only reason why I'd be like pulled to New York is are they ready to pay me at SNL? Because why would you leave a paycheck if there was? So I just want to know if there was something specific that pulled you to New York, or you were like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to do it.
There was something specific. So there's a writer/performer named Mike O'Brien, he was like the showrunner of AP Bio on NBC, but he wrote for SNL. He was on camera, I think, for a year or two at SNL, did a lot of digital shorts with them. But before he even joined SNL, he started making these videos called 7 Minutes in Heaven, which you can look up on YouTube. But they were basically, the concept is he's in a literal closet with a celebrity interviewing them. And it always ends with him like awkwardly asking for a kiss at the end. And he's shot down in a variety of ways. But just a stupid, super fun series. And I knew Mike because he came through Improv Asylum when he was touring with Second City a couple times. So I was like friendly with him. And I noticed that he's putting out these videos and they were being tagged with the Broadway video logo at the end of them, which was like a new thing because it's not an SNL thing, but Broadway Video is involved with this. So as I was noticing those videos, we had done like a Kickstarter and shot a web series called Employment Through Craigslist, my friend Matt Catanzano and I. And we were like, look, how do we get eyeballs on this thing? We raised money, we shot it, we're editing it now. Like, how are we going to get eyeballs on it? And we literally started like blind emailing through LinkedIn Broadway Video employees to be like, hey, it looks like you're maybe putting out independent comedic shorts, wondering if you might be interested in this thing that we already have. It's done. We can even send you the first 3 episodes, but we're interested in getting eyeballs on it. And look,
Did you put a video in the actual first email just to tease it out?
We didn't.
You didn't. Okay.
No, but I think we may have put a couple of our most successful shorts that we had already shot with my friend Chris. I think we put those in the email to be like, here's a sampling of stuff we've done. We're now going on to a web series thing. And this was like when web series were like the height of internet comedy. But 99% of the time, this would have gone nowhere, right? No one's going to email us. Who are these bozos? But this person who was in charge of what we learned since was this like initiative to gather people from all across the country and put out content on Broadway Video's new YouTube channel, which they branded as Above Average, which was the name of Lorne Michaels' first production company, I believe. So they like resurrected that name and made this YouTube channel that was just of a collective of people from all over the country. And this woman I'm actually working for this new subsection of Broadway Video called Above Average. And I've seen your shows in Boston. Her parents lived in Boston. She grew up in Boston. She's like, I know you guys because I've seen you on stage. And we were like, holy shit. And so she was like, will you come to New York next week? And we were like, okay. And what? Literally a week later, Matt and I are having a meeting in Lorne Michaels' office at 30 Rock.
No
and he's not there. So a week later, we're like in Lorne Michaels' office meeting with Jen Danielson, who becomes the head of Above Average. And we're like pinching ourselves. We're like, literally, what is happening here? And Jen became a great friend. She was a producer on SNL for some 15 years or something. And we start getting really close with all these people at Broadway Video. And they start giving us like 10 grand a pop to go do another web series. They're like, here, pitch us ideas. So we pitched them a bunch of ideas. One of them was called Portrait Studio, where like Matt and I were the owners of a portrait studio, and every episode was like a different client that we were taking photos for, and they all went wrong in different ways. But we pitched them that idea, and they were like, great, here's 10 grand, and just do it. We don't want to see scripts. We don't want to be involved in casting. Just do it. And we were like, okay. So it was like this amazing thing where all of a sudden we were like on the Broadway Video payroll, and that was really the impetus to move to New York, right? Like after we shot Portrait Studio in Boston, we were like, okay, we're now getting managers are reaching out to us being like, who are you guys? What's happening? And so that led us to New York, and we almost immediately had managers, agents, and we just kind of were able to hit the ground running. And a couple of years later, we were doing Just for Laughs and auditioning on the like SNL audition circuit.
Oh, did you audition then for SNL?
So in 2016, I got Just for Laughs. I was a
new face character.
Yep. And I did that in 2016. And that historically, all the people from SNL come to that festival in Montreal. And so after doing that, about a month later, I heard, hey, SNL wants to see you. They want to see you in a showcase at UCB. So they've selected 10 people for this showcase at UCB, and they want you to do your set. So I was like, amazing. And man, this was like one of those instances where it really felt less like a show and more of an audition. Like all like SNL producers, writers, everyone's just like front row at UCB. And I think there are only 125, 150 seats in that house. And like all of a sudden there you are, like doing your character set and being like, oh.
You doing the same set from Just for Laughs? Do you have to come up with a whole new set? What's the audition process for
Luckily, I didn't. Like usually if you go to 8H and they like you, they might say a week later, hey, come back, but all new stuff. Luckily, I didn't have to go through that. So I could just do my tried and true material that I had been like doing at open mic character nights all around New York for a few months in the lead up to JFL. And then I had perfected it for Just for Laughs. I closed out the Just for Laughs character set. And I should talk about this because this was actually a big piece of this. This was right when Hamilton was moving from off-Broadway to Broadway, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of a way to showcase impressions because I was like, I know that it's always a nice thing to have in your back pocket and it's a valuable thing for the show if you can do impressions well. And so I was newly obsessed with this like Hamilton phenomenon and was like, oh, I'll just do the opening number from Hamilton as different celebrities, right?
Genius.
And so
Genius.
that's what ended my Just for Laughs set. I did it live on stage. I had like cards of the celebrities that I flipped down to the ground as I was doing it. And then as I was doing that, I was like, oh, I should film this too. I'll film this and just put it online. And so I filmed it and put it online, and that took off. And so all this stuff was happening. Again, like I'm creating my own stuff, but like the timing of that Hamilton thing was just perfect because everyone was discovering the musical at that time.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
It's so good. Can I pick into it just a little bit for
Please.
like actors that it's one thing to go to improv and they're teaching you tools, they're teaching you skills, and they're being like, okay, here's the rules of improv, and now go and play until you get better. So you get better at riding the bike. How the hell do you know you're good at impressions? And what is your like? I just want people to like. So in the Hamilton, you have 14 different celebrities. You go from Sandler, JFK, Mickey Mouse. Your mom killed me. I almost peed myself.
I had to throw that one in.
Like just a little bit.
That's maybe the original impression for me is my mom. Yeah.
Dan Rather, Arnold, Marge Simpson.
Yeah.
Are you like, Richie, are you like standing in front of a mirror working this out? Are you watching how the mouth moves? Like, how are you breaking apart an impression and then getting it to where you're like, okay, now I got it?
Yeah. It's funny. I'm not like, I see other impressionists, and I'll call out Bill Hader specifically because I think he's so amazing at this. I'm not good at what he's good at, which is like Bill Hader has this thing. I think you can look it up online. If you look up Bill Hader Dateline impressions, he does impressions of all the anchors from Dateline, which most people don't even know by name. But then he'll open his mouth and you'll just be like, holy shit, that's that guy. That's that weird guy that I've never thought of, but there he is. And I can't really do that. You can't. Like, for instance, for years, my reps have been like, please work on a Colbert impression because you look enough like him that if you could nail a Colbert, oh my gosh, the value that would have. I can't find a single thing to grasp on with Colbert. There has to be some little seedling of something with people. But
meaning like a word that they repeat or like a certain phrase that they say.
Yeah, or even mannerisms, because a lot of times if you find a mannerism to latch onto and you can nail that, it matters less what your voice sounds like. Like it doesn't need to be a direct match. It just you need to find a hook. There's got to be something that like hooks you in. And like, I'm good at a lot of impressions that other impressionists have done first. Like, I'm good at Dana Carvey impressions. Like, I can do his version of Arnold or his version of Bill Clinton or whatever it is. So I was very obsessed with Dana Carvey, and I think he was my intro into impressions. And that kind of led me to, I think I was always a mimic growing up, but watching Dana Carvey on SNL that's when I was in the mirror practicing. And I will say, too, being on stage for so many hours doing improv, you often get a suggestion that is a celebrity, right? So sometimes the audience wants to see a very specific thing. And that was really good practice for me, too, because if someone is yelling out, I was going to say Oprah, that's not an impression I'd jump on immediately. But like there are plenty of impressions that people would yell out. Nomar Garcia Parra was a big one, and Boston sports lore, like their famous shortstop. And so then you'd have to be like, okay, great. I have 3 seconds to think of what I'm going to do when I walk onto stage and do Nomar. Yep. And so there were things like that I learned a lot under fire, where it was just like, go do it. And what I learned in those years, not only with impressions, but improv and sketch in general, it's just like confidence wins the day. If the audience senses for a second that you feel vulnerable or you are unsure about what you're doing, they're just not in. But if you just go out there and sell the shit out of whatever you're doing, more often than not, even if you're literally making a fool of yourself, they're going to love it because they see you having fun. They see you fully in. And I think that makes like a world of difference.
Couldn't agree more. Our mirror neurons, like, I trust you. You're having fun. I'm having fun watching. I'm not criticizing. Totally. You're not having fun. I'm picking apart every single thing in this moment. Okay. Yeah. I just had to, because I was watching, I was like, how does one just sit down and be like, I'm going to do Mickey Mouse today. I'm going to do Christopher Walken. And I know a lot of people do Christopher Walken, but you threw out some. And then doing it in a Hamilton versus, I was dying. It was wonderful. Okay, so take me to the SNL. Okay, so let's go back.
Yeah,
Front row, everybody's sitting there.
Yeah, so I'm at UCB, and like UCB is notorious for this. They have these showcases pretty much annually. SNL will be like, throw your best people up there. We'll come for a couple hours and we'll watch everybody. And it's always a mix of stand-ups and sketch performers. So there's a lot of like people doing character sets, which are so different than somebody's tight five doing stand-up. So there was a stand-up that was right before me. I was the last performer. They put me on last again, I think because they knew, hey, this Hamilton thing will hit and will be a fun way to end the show. And it was the last piece in my set. But the show was going so insanely long. And the artistic director had been part of the show before this showcase, and it was a drinking show. So they were just like getting drunk on stage. And so the artistic director, who's supposed to be like overseeing, like giving people the light and making sure this thing runs smoothly, it's like not even there. She was just like toast. And so the showcase ends up going so insanely long. And I can just sense in the room that like people are done watching this show. It's just, even before I get out there, you can just feel the audience being like, okay, it's hot down here. It's August in New York. It's like there's like never working air conditioning at UCB. And they were just done. But I have to still go out there and do my best. But long story short, I feel like I did a fine job, but I felt like the audience was just absolutely done with me before I even got out there. So I didn't feel great about it. And I didn't end up getting an in-person audition at 8H, which was a bummer. We got like good feedback through my reps. They reached out to SNL and they were like, we love him, just not this year. And I forget who they hired that year.
That was what I was going to ask. Yeah. What year was that? Do you remember?
That was 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always like seeing where we go peaks and valleys, right? Especially if like we're aiming for SNL, it doesn't go. Do you have the opportunity to do 2017 or 2018? Or at this point, do you pivot? I love this this spot that you got to do with John Malkovich, and I needed to know how that came to be, because you would think with 4 sports Emmys, does that help?
No, right? And that was the next year. And that's actually like a key piece of that will lead us into Ghosts too. Yeah. So I got a call for this, did what's called like a teaser that aired before the AFC Championship game in 2017. And often they'll do like a 3-minute promo that's like the Patriots and the Jaguars meet head to head, and it's like slow motion shots of football players. And CBS Sports was like, let's do a comedic take on these teasers and do this thing. So I get a call from Melissa Paradise, who's a casting agent in Boston. And she cast me in like my first commercials in Boston. I think she cast me in my first TV show in Boston. And she reaches out to me and says, hey, CBS Sports is doing this thing. I don't have a script. I know no details other than it's supposed to be like airing during the AFC Championship game, which like aside from the Super Bowl is one of the biggest watched things ever. I think 50 million people watch those AFC and NFC Championship games live. But I didn't know, she knew nothing about it. I was actually producing a show at UCB that late that night that she wanted me to film this thing. And I was
are you in New York at this point? You're in New York.
New York.
Right?
So she's, I can get you on an Amtrak. And I was like, look, I have this show that I've been working months on at UCB. I don't know if I can do this. What is it? And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm super low on details, but I showed them your reel. They just want to hire you. You're not reading for it. They just want to hire you. And I was like, okay. And so I start to play hardball and be like, can you tell them I have a hard out of 3 o'clock so I can get on an Amtrak and make it back to New York for my show? And she's like, great, I'll tell them. I later find out that John Malkovich had the same hard out, so it had absolutely nothing to do with my hard out.
Great coincidence. And you don't know John's attached at this point.
I have no idea. I'm assuming this is like a Dunkin' Donuts sponsorship with Rob Gronkowski, like some stupid thing that I will have one line in. But whatever, it was like $1,100, whatever the day rate is at that time. It's like, you'll make $1,000 and you'll have a fun experience. So I'm like, great, I'll do it. So I show up to I forget what the name, I think it's like Symphony Hall in Boston. I forget the official name of like where the symphony orchestra plays. But I show up and they send me to this green room and they hand me a script that's 5 pages long. It's like a sketch. It's like a full sketch. And I'm like, whoa, what is this? I literally thought it was going to be like a one-liner nothing thing. And then like moments after I'm handed a script, John Malkovich walks in the green room and he's holding his script and he goes, would you like to read through this? And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, oh, I'm fully like on a hidden camera show. Like,
Am I
what
being
the
punked? You're
fuck
being
is
punked.
happening? And but what do you do? You're like, I was like, okay, John Malkovich, yeah, let's read through this. And I'm cold reading it. This is the first time seeing it.
Yeah.
So we sit and we read through it, and it's super funny. I play the director of, it's very like inside baseball. I'm playing the director of the teaser that he is the star of. And he's the one giving this monologue about the Patriots, this behemoth meeting the Jaguars, who are this underdog. And then, like, soon after we read the script, he starts to suss me out a little bit. I think he's kind of like, who is this person that I'm doing this thing with?
How
And I
is
had
he
another
doing that?
actor-
Is he like messing with you in the scene? How is he, or is he just asking you questions?
So he's so dry with me in the green
Yeah.
room. But right away, he said, I think he even asked me, I think he said, are you an improviser? And I said, I am. Yeah, that's my background. And he goes, okay, great. Then we'll be okay. And he comes from, he loves to improvise. He's comes from an improv background too. And I think he was put at ease by the fact that that is where I'm most comfortable, is improvising. And he's like, great, so we can kind of mess around with this script. And I was like, talk to the director, but absolutely, I'd love to mess around with the script. So we just started filming this thing. We filmed the whole thing in 6 hours. We had this amazing moment where, like, he's doing this monologue that, again, he was cold reading the script with me. So he had been told the concept at least ahead of time. But he had this long monologue, right? It's like a page and a half of dialogue that he's just looked at for the first time and we're about to film. And so as he's doing this monologue, it was really interesting because in the final spot, there's a symphony orchestra playing behind him. As he's giving this dramatic monologue about this game, the symphony starts to play, and then you really start to feel this energy. And then they actually do cut to like slow motion shots of football players. But he's basically saying to my character, like, this is what the teaser needs to be. It needs to be David versus Goliath. And he goes through this dramatic speech. And so as he starts doing it, I think the director was a little concerned. Oh, he probably doesn't know these lines yet. We just gave him this script. So Pete, the director, was like, Richie, why don't you go hang out in the green room? I'm going to work with John on the monologue part of this. And John's like, no, I need him. I need him here. He's the one I'm yelling at. Like, he's the one I'm explaining this whole thing to. So it was such a cool experience because I was about to be like, oh, am I going to miss the best part of this show? I want to see Malkovich work. But like instead, he was like making direct eye contact with me the whole time. And so he's exactly what you want any scene partner to be, right? So actively engaged with you and really made me feel like, even though during that monologue, I'm saying nothing, he's feeding off of my energy. And so it was just the coolest experience.
What did you learn by what? I mean, talk about a master at really putting himself forward into work and getting to sit and be his bench, basically, like the warm-up bench where you're like, I got you. What were did you get to glean anything off of him?
Yes. There was one really critical moment where he's doing this monologue for the first time and he is stumbling over his line. He doesn't quite know it yet, but you can feel he's just trying to get the energy of this and what it's going to feel like. And the orchestra behind him is miming playing, right? Cello players miming, violinists miming, so that their audio doesn't interfere with his monologue. And they'll add in the symphony orchestra afterwards. But then after a take or two, he goes, wait, Pete, can I hear what they're actually going to be playing? I need to hear what music this is. And so then they play it for us. They play this whole piece that's going to play in the background of this spot. And he's like, oh, holy shit, does that change everything? Because it's the most intense, dramatic musical piece. And so then he goes back to it. They start miming again. But then all of a sudden, he is shouting this speech. And his energy totally changes to match the tone of the music. And that was such a great lesson in like, hey, think of the final product, right? Always be thinking with an editor's brain and with a director's brain to be like, what is the tone of this piece overall? And how is my performance going to match that and help that? And that was
telling
such
the full story. Yeah.
Totally. Because the first take, he was like, basically, he was intense, but he was like almost whispering it. He was like, this is a David versus Goliath story. But then after hearing the thing, he's like, it's David versus Goliath. Like he was like going for it. And it makes the whole piece. I mean, it like, when you watch the final product, and you can look it up, it's called Teasing John Malkovich is the name of it. And it makes the whole thing that he had them play the song for him. And frankly, the director should have done that first. He should have been like, hey, here's the piece. But it was so run and gun that it was happening all so fast.
But also just ask for what you want. I just feel like sometimes as actors, especially when you're like, I got the job. I don't even know that John's
100%.
attached. You get there and then you're like, oh, okay, what do I need to do? Right? It gets back
and
to
there's
job.
so many times it's such a good point, because I think about asking to see the monitor, right? If on our show, especially with the speed of sitcoms on Ghosts, like you're never in a position to be like, can I see the monitor, or can we watch playback? So rarely, unless it's like a very technical thing or a very physical thing that they're trying to nail. You're almost never even thinking about asking someone to see playback. It's like an insane thing that would just slow you down and not offer a lot of value. But there are specific instances. Again, there was one scene where my character can travel. He's the only ghost that can leave the property. And he starts to disappear slowly when he's gone from the mansion too long. So we do this scene where I have disappeared from the waist down, and I'm literally crawling in the front door of the mansion, like dragging myself back home. And I remember, I think Rebecca Asher, who's this brilliant director, one of my favorites on Ghosts, was directing that episode. And I remember there being a specific moment where I was like, I clearly wasn't doing exactly physically what they needed. And I was just like, hey, I need to look at the framing of this. I just need to see what we're looking at here. And it made all the difference. I was like, oh, 100%. I can keep my head up, but also still be crawling. Like, they were just losing too much of my eyes, basically. Yeah. I also have this terrible thing where, I don't know if you talked to Sheila about this, but we both wear glasses in the show, and reflections in glasses are a nightmare. Like, even with the anti-glare stuff. So there are many times where our DP will come up to me and be like, I'm so sorry, but we see reflections like crazy. Can you tilt your head down a little bit?
You're really learning how to glass act.
100%.
You're glass acting.
Yeah, I'm a great glass actor.
You and Sheila both. We should do a whole course just on glass acting.
Totally. Yeah.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
from scene study classes to audition classes,
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created The Bridge for Actors,
a collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
to a working actor.
Okay, so when when this spot comes out, and it wins 4 sports Emmys, of all like the commercials that you've done, of all the like movement that you've made, is this something that kind of opens the door? Because I love that you and Asher both have this football journey straight into Ghosts.
Yeah, what's weird is that spot, the AFC championship spot that year, did so well and won awards, but also the visibility was crazy. My phone was blowing up like it had never blown up with anything I'd done before. Again, just because like sheer volume of people.
Yes.
And I was also living in Boston, and the Patriots were in the game, so all my family and friends were all like, everyone was watching the game. They had me back the next year. I did a Super Bowl spot, which aired in the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, and I was like played Peyton Manning's assistant or something. I don't even know what my position was, but Malkovich was in that too. But Malkovich shot remotely at the Coliseum in Rome. Like, they stepped their game up even more. But yeah, the combination of those two things were such high visibility. And here's what I learned later. After auditioning for Ghosts. So we do the table read for Ghosts, and I know we're skipping.
We'll reverse.
Go back and we can talk about the audition process. But after doing the table read at CBS Radford for Ghosts, we're there in person 2 days before the pandemic started. It was March 11th, 2020, sorry. And these two like gray-haired gentlemen approach me after the table read, and they're making a beeline for me, and they look like execs. I don't know who they are, but it was Tom Sherman and, oh man, sorry. It was Tom Sherman and Kelly Call from CBS. I forget their exact titles, but like EVP of programming, like big wigs at the network, clearly have a major stake in who's going to be on this show, right? And they're beelining for me, and they were like, the Malkovich thing. And I was like, oh yeah. They were like, we loved that Malkovich thing so much. That year for our annual CBS like meeting, we hired John Malkovich to come to CBS to do a parody version of it where we played your character. So
No
they basically,
way.
it was insane. So they were so obsessed with it that they hired Malkovich to come to CBS to do like a bit with them. And after my whole audition process, what I realized was like, oh my God, that
That
Malkovich thing was probably a massive part of why I got this job.
100%. Instead of them inviting you to come for the parody, they're like, fine, just come play on our show. We'll just be
Totally.
looking out for him in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, we'll just
That
fully change your life by giving you this job. But yeah,
complete change your life. Because up to that point, you're still doing improv this whole entire time, and you're
yeah,
getting like great one-offs, right? Like you get to go
totally.
guest in some people's houses. Like you're
Yeah.
auditioning. It's not like you're not auditioning. Did you say you went back to Boston at a certain point, or were you staying in New York?
No, I stayed in New York.
You stayed
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get to go in the room then for Ghosts as far as this whole audition
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Since we've heard everybody else's auditions and it all
Yeah.
centers around, majority of them had a monologue, which I'm sure you killed your monologue. I just
Yeah.
want to know the audition process for it and if there had been any other shows that you've even auditioned for up to that point that allowed you to have this like connective glue with Ghosts. Because I couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been auditioning for pilots by that point for 5 years consistently. Like starting in 2013 when I moved to New York, right away I was going in for pilots that frankly I was absolutely not ready to be going in for. My manager was great and got me in the room, but holy shit was I green and just not ready. I just wasn't
What do you
ready.
think? You just didn't think you were ready to carry a show? You didn't know like scene
Yeah.
to scene? What do you think where did your lessons need to come in,
I
basically?
think I wasn't great with breaking down a scene. I wasn't great at identifying the beats of a scene and where changes need to happen. Yeah, look, I had
Even as a writer, even as somebody that was writing sketches and stuff, I find that I think that's good information for people out there to
Yeah.
understand that you could have this skill set. Did you
Totally.
start coaching then? Did you go to a class? What helped you
Yeah,
start
I went to a
breaking down?
bunch of acting classes at One-on-One in New York. I took Bob Krakauer's class, and he's so funny because Asher loves him. I feel like you either love him or you don't respond to him. And I was someone that I was like, this is not for me. This is not,
Yep.
I did
Not
not
working.
respond to that. But there were so many resources online at that time that were coming online, podcasts like this that are such a wealth of information. I just started gobbling up any information I could. I'm such a researcher in all aspects of my life. And as I realized that, hey, you're going to be called in to audition for big jobs now. You need to be ready for those jobs. So it was a combination of taking classes, hiring coaches for auditions, a big thing early on, just like hiring people to help me think through this.
Which coaches did you work with, or which ones did you like that really helped break down mostly
Oh my
comedy,
God,
really? Because there's a musicality to it. And it's interesting to me that you have such an ear that
Yeah.
once you learn the musicality, it makes sense to me. It all really clicks. But
I honestly can't think of one coach that I like went back to,
that's perfect, Richie. You
which
took
isn't, is not great.
No, but I think that to me, what that says is you didn't develop a dependency. I think there's something as an actor sometimes that where you develop a dependency on a coach and then you're
Yeah.
not doing the work. If
Yeah.
you are a researcher, you go and work with somebody, you're like, cool, great, got it. Next, like
Yeah.
you're like getting different tools for your toolbox.
Totally. And I think like a lot of it was just like I had learned for so many years, I had learned how to be confident on stage in front of an audience. I knew, especially in the rooms I was familiar playing at Improv Asylum at UCB, I'm like, I can command that audience. If I have good material and I feel good about myself, I can be in charge in front of those rooms. In auditions, I just felt so nervous. My nervous system was like firing on all cylinders. So often, I remember I had an audition for the pilot for Marvelous Miss Maisel. And my God, was I was terrible in it. I just walked out being like, Jesus, that was so embarrassing. Because I was so, like, Amy Sherman Palladino was there with her husband. I knew they were a big deal. And I was like, and again, I just like, oh my God, I'm so green. I don't really know how to do this. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like it was just getting those hours, right? Like just understanding that you needed to just be human in the room. The more relaxed you can be, the better. The less desperate you seem, the better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I became really good at finding, even if it was a really small connection, just some sort of human connection with whether it be the reader or the casting director or whoever was running the session. Just find a quick human moment with them. Which, man, there's a fine line, right? Because I've seen
Yeah.
actors come into rooms and they're just like doing bits, and the casting directors, oh my God, we don't need this right now. We have 20 people in the waiting room. Can you just read the lines and go away? But I think if you can find that small moment of connection and just realness to show them like, hey, here's who I am as a person,
Yeah.
and then be able to like take that breath and switch into the scene and get into character. That's a big thing. But for me, I do feel like it was just the hours, right?
Yeah.
It was sure, it was gathering information and researching, but it was just like doing it enough that I was no longer intimidated to walk into a room. And I knew that I remember hearing a Bryan Cranston interview once where he was like, he talks about the audition as being the job. That is the job, right? You're not auditioning for a job. This audition is the job. And that was a really nice mindset change for me too, to be like, oh, this is my opportunity to do the job. I'm showing them what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And if they hire me, great. But if not, it's a mental trick, but it is nice to leave the room and be like, I did it. I did the job.
Yeah, 100%. Was
to
there
feel good
a
about
job before? Was there a job or an audition before Ghost? Or do you think Ghost was that pivotal part or pivotal moment for you in auditioning?
I had a great audition for a movie called Going in Style that Zach Braff directed. And I auditioned, I'm trying to remember I don't think it was tape. I think I went in the room. It was Avi Kaufman in New York who cast that. Big deal, like done
Big deal.
amazing things. She can be intimidating, but she's great. She's like such a great casting director. She's really great at talking with actors. I taped for that. I left being like, that was fine. Who knows? We'll see. I thought I was right for it. I ended up playing like a nervous bank employee as the bank is being robbed in this movie. And turned out to be a bigger role than I originally anticipated. But I got a call back and they're like, you're going to come in and Zach Braff will be there. It's a session with Avi and Zach Braff. So I was like, okay, amazing. And I think it's intimidating, right? When you hear like Zach Braff is going to be in the room or anyone, any known quantity, it can level up your nervousness. But I don't know why. I think, again, I had done enough at that point. That was right around 2016, 2017. All the SNL stuff was starting to maybe happen. And I just felt like really relaxed. I was like, hey, and Zach made that session super relaxed too. And I saw your tape. You 100% get it. I think you're great. You would be great for this part. I just want to run through a couple things. And I think they did that thing that I wish was a part of truly every audition, because I think it's one of the things I'm best at, is just giving me adjustments. Great. Now try one like this. Now try one like this. And I think because of my improv background.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I love that. I'm like, please ask me to throw out my preconceived notions of this and let me try something totally different. Or even if it's a slight adjustment. I just think all my years as a voice actor where you have to make very minute adjustments. Yeah, that came in really handy. And I think he just wanted to see, I think this guy's great for it, but let me see if he can make adjustments appropriately and he'll be easy to direct. Super fun session. I left being like, that was great. If nothing comes of it, again, that was the job. I feel great about that. What a great experience. And then I think I got the call later that day that they want you to do it. And I ended up for 2 weeks, I was on set with Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine. My scenes were with Michael Caine, Alan Arkin. And they had me go to the table read. So I was at the table read in person with all these crazy
Acting
talents.
gods. Yeah.
I mean,
well, that one of
like,
my questions, I was like, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, I would just be eating popcorn all day, just watching what they're
incredible.
doing. What did you glean from that? What were your takeaways watching?
So one of the scenes I did with Michael Caine, I believe it's the opening scene of the movie, is he has gotten this foreclosure letter. His mortgage is being foreclosed. They're taking his house. So he's coming to the bank to basically scream at whoever's in charge of the bank. And I'm like the greeter at this giant bank, right? But I'm his first person that he's interacting with. So he's steamed and I'm just like immediately on my back foot because he's so nervous or because he's so mad. But he came to set. And I had met him briefly at the table read, and I'm sure it didn't make much of an impression. But he said, would you like to read it? And I was like, I would love to. Yeah, let's read it. And so we read through it a couple times. He's reading it clearly to make sure that he knows the words, truly just the words. He's almost whispering the whole thing. And I'll paraphrase his lines, but I need to speak with somebody about this foreclosure notice I got. And he's just playing it all very small. And I'm playing it as I'm going to play it on camera, right? But I'm also sensing, again, like I'm an improviser, I'm listening, so maybe I'm going to need to adjust things based on if he's going to play this smaller, maybe I need to calibrate my performance a little bit. But then we roll on the first take, And he is not playing it small. He is screaming at me. He's really hot and he's wide-eyed and he's shooting daggers. And I think he was doing that because he wanted me to truly be scared in that first take. It was my coverage. And I think he knew the hotter I play this, the more I'm really going to scare this kid and we'll get the performance we need out of him. And so as he's doing it in that first take, there's like, maybe you can see behind my eyes, this fucking genius is getting the best performance out of me right now.
What a gift off camera too, because you've worked with a lot of people. You have a lot of people that come through Ghosts. Sometimes the off camera work, they're phoning it in. Yes.
Kinda. Yeah.
So what a gift for him.
What a gift. Fully present, absolutely on my team. And I think thinking about the film as a whole and thinking about this moment, I need to be intimidating as hell and this guy needs to be scared shitless of me. And so he just did everything he needed to do to get the best out of me, which I think about that all the time because it was such a gift and just such a smart veteran move.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's no selfishness. It's literally, and I'll tell you another quick story because this was the best, but like at one point we were sitting in holding together, like waiting for camera setups to be moved. And it's just the two of us, like just sitting in the high back chairs and just being like, and I'm following his lead. I'm not going to chat him up. I don't know how he operates. Turns out he's like the nicest man in the world and like more than willing to just chat me up. But like we're sitting for a minute in silence and then he goes, I'd like to tell you the story about how I met Marilyn Monroe. And I was like, me? You want to tell me that story? And he tells me this incredible story about how he met Marilyn Monroe on the Paramount lot when she was shooting a film with Peter Sellers and he was shooting his first film next door and he broke into their studio to like just approach her and meet her and he got tackled by security and thrown out. And the next day he tried again to meet Marilyn Monroe. He tried again. He snuck back in. He waited for a moment where she was like basically all alone in between setups. And he's like, and I go to introduce myself and shake her hand. And Peter Sellers, who he didn't know at that point, grabbed him by his collar and threw him out of the lot. So he got thrown out 2 days in a row by security and by Peter Sellers. And he goes, I never met Marilyn Monroe. I never met her.
What a story.
He's just telling you like incredible stories like this. We're just like, what is happening right now? What is happening that Michael Caine is telling?
It's also so disarming. I feel like, again, with these veterans, it's really interesting. They can really create space between you. And then what's that going to do for the project unless the characters have space? Or there's this like invitation, welcome to the club. I'm a human being.
Yeah.
Now let's go play. Yeah.
And there's just, from some people, from a lot of people that you work with, you just get this sense of warmth and gratitude that they're there and working and there's still joy in it for so many people. And I love that, man. This actor named Don Lake, who he's an example, I think, of all the time. He came on to Ghosts. I think it was season 1. He's in a single episode, but he's so brilliant. And he's in a ton of Christopher Guest movies. He's in, I think he's in both Best in Show and Guffman. But he's just so great in those universes. And so when his casting was announced, I was like, oh my God, Don Lake's going to be here. I love Don Lake. He's amazing. And just the warmest, kindest, like thrilled to be there. And he doesn't even know what this show is yet. This show could be awful. Like it's not out yet. And just came in and was just the loveliest human being in the world. And it's people like that where you're like, okay, I want to do anything possible to work with you again.
And just to keep working, especially season 1, you didn't know what you guys had. Now it's season 5. You guys have constructed a gorgeous house. Anybody that's coming to play, if they're coming to play like that, it just elevates what's already there.
Yeah.
And I think
and we go super out of our way to be as warm as humanly possible with everybody that comes through those doors, because we all we're struggling actors forever. We were all day players. We were all guest stars for years and some series regulars, but everyone has a real appreciation for how lucky we are to have job security and to be doing this fun job and to be doing it together with this great group of people. So I think we all are super empathetic to how difficult it can be to come in as a guest star or a co-star, whatever it is, however big or small the part is. It's difficult to step onto someone else's set. And I know, like, for me, I did an episode of the first season of What We Do in the Shadows. And man, Jermaine Clement was so insanely kind to me when I showed up on that set. The first thing he said to me was, the second we saw your tape, we knew we were taken care of. And I was like, what a kind thing to say to somebody I came in for one episode. I had a fun little episode, but
it's a great episode.
It was one episode, though. Yeah, totally. But man, and to have one of the showrunners, EPs, director of this episode immediately come up to me and be like, we're so glad you're here. And then he's come eat with us. And that was the kind of welcoming thing where I'm like, immediately, I want to do the best job possible for you. I'm immediately feeling like this will be a fun collaboration and we'll be able to be in conversation as we're filming these scenes. And then I've been on sets where it's just like nothing but cold. You aren't introduced to anyone. You don't know who the DP is, who the director is, who anyone is. Like, you're being bossed around and shoved in a room and you're like, oh, this isn't fun.
Ego kills the creativity. That to me is all ego. And then you're like, I don't know why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I want to ask, Richie, I have to ask then, because all of this great laying the foundation, I just want to hear about that initial couple of auditions and for Ghost. We know the outcome, right?
Yeah.
Because you get Pete.
Yeah.
Do you have much information, like 1985? Maybe you have how he died?
Yeah, I knew he had an arrow through his neck. There were a lot of jokes of him referencing the arrow, right?
Yes.
Because this pilot is going to be the introduction to the world of who this character is. So he's got to be like calling out the visual things that are happening to him.
I want to know, other than reading the script, I want to get inside your brain of how you construct characters, especially from coming from the improv background, now having auditioned for years. That you're like, okay, I got the material. What are you going to do?
Yeah. So I think with this particular character, he's 40-ish years old in 1985, which is basically exactly how old my dad was. And my dad is the warmest, most like chipper. He's full of like dad jokes. He's just like a lovely man. It was a great dad, but also just like beloved. He's a pediatrician. He's just like a beloved figure. And Pete, to me, felt very much like my dad. There was like joy, there's a little bit of goofiness, and I think it helps me to, when I read a breakdown, be like, who does this remind me of? And maybe that's like the impressionist in me who's, okay, what can I do to embody my dad as I'm reading for Pete? The really interesting thing about this initial audition, where I'm going in person to CBS in New York, reading for Rosalie Joseph and Eric Goldberg. And Eric, I think it was just me and Eric in the room taping. And I did it once. And again, he does this lovely thing of being like, great, let's try another one. And he gives me an adjustment. And he was just like, go broader with it. Because he's like, I don't know exactly what they're going to want, but I played the first one pretty grounded. And he was like, let's just do one that shows you can be broader with it if that is indeed what they want. So I was like, great, happy to do that. I think he even may have said like cartoony, be a little. He didn't say this at the time, but like Ned Flanders was the thing that I thought of. Be a little more like Ned Flanders. And again, so grateful that I get to do another one. Because I never feel like the first take is my best take. And now I'm being given an opportunity where, hey, my heart rate's a little lower. I can now make this adjustment. I can show him that I can do the thing he's asking. Great. I feel like I'm in the best position possible. And I do that second take and I feel better about it. But I also feel like, oh, was that too broad? I don't know. Are they going to like that? And then I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 days later, I get the call that they're going to fly you out to LA to test. And I'm so excited. And in the moment, I forget to ask, do you know which take they responded to? Because I did two very, I think, distinctly different things. And so I called my manager back and I was like, Tova, can you please, Tova Silberman's my manager. She's the best. She's at Mosaic. And I was like, can you please just ask Eric if they responded to one specifically? And I think Eric went back to CBS and was like, which take did you like? And they said the broader one. They were like, we like the bigger swings. So I was like, great, insanely helpful to know. That's like the tone they're looking for. And what was incredible about this audition experience is it wasn't just going out and doing a studio and network test. Joe Port and Joe Wiseman, the showrunners, along with Trent O'Donnell, who's become like a dear friend of mine and is, I think, the best comedic director working right now, especially in television. He's just brilliant. They had a work session with us, right? So they're like, before we go into test, let's work through this. Let's go through the scenes together and we're just going to let you play it and we'll give you some thoughts. And I'm like, oh my God, great. Because again, this
All
is
of
your
strengths.
show.
Yeah, but
Like,
also you're getting all of the things that make you come alive.
Yes. Yeah.
I
I'm getting
mean-
notes. I'm like, I love a note. Yes. Give me a note. Give me an adjustment. And it was just so helpful to like and put me at ease because then all of a sudden I'm not seeing the showrunners and the director for the first time in the test. Like we have this work session where it's literally us in a tiny office, like just talking through the scenes and talking through the character. I got to ask questions. They gave me thoughts. And I think Joe Port in that moment even said like, he may have said the Ned Flanders thing at that point. And again, I'm like, great, super helpful to know that's how you're seeing him. I can use that as I'm doing this. So I go in and do the studio test. Insanely intimidating, right? Like awful.
This is when we used to do it old school. There's like all the suits are sitting there. Did you have, but also very theater-esque, right? Like you're down in front of everybody, again, playing to your strengths in my mind now after hearing all this.
Totally.
Was it
100%.
intimidating? Did you have that moment of
It was very intimidating. Luckily, they did two nice things for me. They let me see the room before I went in, before everyone was there.
Did you
They're
ask?
I did. Yeah,
Good
I was like,
for you.
can I see where I'm going to be? Because that, I don't know, I'm so visual. And you know, like when we're blocking a scene on Ghosts, the lines don't get all the way into my head until I'm in the space looking at where is Asher going to be? Where is Sheila going to be? Like looking at the people that I'm performing with. That's when it really starts to solidify for me, is in that blocking rehearsal. So it was just really helpful to see the room and be like, where am I going to be standing? Like, where are the cameras? Because they're filming these.
Yeah.
So like you do need to be aware of that kind of thing. The other crazy thing about those rooms, and I feel like this isn't super helpful because nobody does this anymore. You don't really go into the test, but the audio is dead in there. The spaces are so sound treated that you just feel like your voice is disappearing.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And I think Tanis validly said to me, don't feel like you have to yell. A lot of people come in and they feel like they really have to be loud in their auditions because they can't even hear themselves because of the sound treatment in here. But trust me, we can hear you. You're mic'd. We're good. So that was really helpful. And I went in and I remember feeling fine about it. I was nervous. I left being like, I think I did it. I think there was one small beat that I forgot to play, which I felt bad about. But I left being like, hey, it is what it is. And I did the best I could. I only got one shot at it, which is a bummer. I'm always like, give me a second swing, but I didn't get a second swing in the room. And then that night I got a call from my reps that said, hey, so I think 3 other people tested for this role, for the studio test. And they said, hey, they sent everyone else home. They don't want anyone else. And I said, okay. So does that mean I got the, what does this mean? And they were like, you were supposed to do the network test tomorrow, but you were their top choice and they need to go out back into the audition pool and find someone else to test against you because they cannot present the network with only one option. So they said, we're going to fly you back to New York. It may take a week or two to find somebody else, and then we'll fly you back to do your final test. And I was like, oh my God, what a mind fuck. So I think it was like roughly 2 weeks later, there's someone to test against you. So come on out. So I go out and I get into the waiting room and I see that it's like one of my comedic heroes who I'm auditioning against.
No way.
Yeah.
I won't say on mic, but I will make you say off mic.
He did this crazy thing, which I think about all the time. He reclined in this chair eating Oreos. He's about to be called in to test. And he's literally like throwing back Oreos and he goes, hey man, you want an Oreo? I was like, no. What is worse to eat right before you go on camera than an Oreo? So it was such an insane moment. But I remember being like, man, what a level of chill this dude has.
And are you thinking, because it's a comedic hero, obviously he's going to get it now. Do you have, those mind? Okay. So
Yeah, I mean,
did it be like, okay, whatever.
I'm literally thinking, why are you wasting my time? Why did you fly me back out?
Yeah.
This is a guy who's been the lead in shows before. Just give him the part. What's happening?
Yeah.
But, you know, what I later found out was like, I went into the room. I was super nervous, but I think part of seeing this guy there was a level of whatever. Like it's his role, like it's his job. I just need to go and make them laugh. And I think I even improvised a button on one of the scenes that I did. I was given a scene for that network test because I think they wanted to see a little more, which was great. I was like, great, I'll be able to show them different stuff. Because there was like a very sweet little monologue that ended up in the pilot. That was my first scene where I'm like reminiscing about how, on the day you die, you never think that's going to be the last time you see your loved ones. And it's it's after Rose's character falls down the stairs and she's in the hospital, and it's this sweet moment that ends comedically. And then I'm given another scene where it's my character trying to convince Sam, Rose's character, to reach out to my wife and communicate with my wife who's still living on my behalf. So super fun second scene. And I think that scene never ended up in the show. Some version of it probably ended up in a later episode, but it was nice. It was like, oh, great, I'm going to get to show them a little more here. Yeah, and I just remember having a level of whatever. I just have to go do my best. I can't believe this guy's here. And my heart rate skyrocketed when I saw him. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, just
how
give
does
it
it
to
not?
him. He's a genius. What are we
Right.
doing here? Like, I felt great about my audition, and I found out, I think 3 days later, that I booked the role. And that was crazy. Just a truly crazy experience. I was like reading my kids a bedtime story. I just had one kid at the time. I was like reading my son a bedtime story, and my phone rang, and it was my manager. And I said to my wife, I was like, I think this is probably the call. And she's like, just pick it up. So I had like my son on my lap, and they were like, hey, you want to be Pete? And I was like, really? Yeah,
What
crazy.
a joy. Like what
Crazy.
like that is that one audition. And what I love, my daughter and I watch the show. So it's one
How
of my
old is your daughter?
10. She
Oh,
loves
man, that's
comedies. She loves comedies.
Perfect
That's her
age.
thing. And I'm just loving that, like, especially having this be your first series regular where you're like getting to step in. All of you guys, most of you guys. I know some people got some series regulars as an actor before, but to have you guys all come in, step in that first season, like, okay, everybody gets just a little bit of, you get a little bit, Pete gets a little bit, we get a little bit from Flower, we get a little bit of this.
Totally.
But I'm loving that, like, we're ramping up to giving each character so much more time and space. It also gave you, now you know your character inside and out. You can do whatever you want. Your sketch, everything's coming back in. I asked your fellow co-stars this, how much are you getting to improv, especially you specifically coming back from an improv background? Are they letting you have more free reign on that? Or you guys are just staying on the page?
You know, what I've really learned is it's so director specific. Certain directors really make a point to leave space for that and to be like, hey, and I think it's such a great way to work. Like, obviously, the scripts are great. They're super tight. We really don't have a lot of room to improvise. They're 22-minute episodes. The scripts are usually 35 pages. So we're like, so much gets cut out. So we know there's not a ton of room. But I spent years as a commercial actor learning how to literally button a commercial with a funny improvised thing that got me so many jobs. Like, my improv training came in so handy for that. So I'm like, that is a strong point. I'm like, I can absolutely come up with something in the moment or work with the writers to be like, hey, could I try something in this neighborhood? And they may come back with an even better pitch. I'll be like, great, we'll get an alt of that. And a lot of those end up in. But yeah, there are certain directors, Trent O'Donnell included, who I mentioned earlier, who's just has a writer's brain. And he was like, I think in his brain, he's always, can we beat what's on the page? Yes, the script is great, it's tight, but is there something we can beat? And I love that. I love the approach of directors who are like, how can we elevate the material? Let's not just execute what's here and be done with it. Let's find small ways, because that's all we have time for, but small ways to make this better. And again, it's what makes it feel more collaborative and interesting and fun, and it feels like a game. And even if that stuff ends up on the cutting room floor, so much of the experience of making the show is actually making the show. Like
100%. Like honestly,
what we see on screen is like not my experience of making the show at all. It's just
who
not.
even cares if anybody sees it? Although many millions and millions are seeing it. But it is really, you've got the job of all jobs right now. Like really, and I just have to say, I've been doing this show for 15 years and I get to sit and study people for a week and I get to get in there. This has been one of the most joyous week of research. I have just been giggling and laughing and just from project to project, even it just really, I'm so glad you're getting your flowers with this show, but I know there's so much more. So like,
Oh, thanks, Alyshia. That's so nice. I really appreciate it.
no, I'm serious. Like it's joy. We need it
Yeah.
right now. We need ghosts.
Yeah, we
need
feel
more. We need more. Like, we
it's
need
so
more.
sweet how many people approach us and say nice things because like we do make it in such a vacuum. We're in Montreal. We're so separated from any industry. We don't really see It doesn't air the same way in Canada, so it's not a phenomenon in Canada the way it is in the US. So it's so nice to connect with people and hear that they respond to it and enjoy it because, man, the world is bleak right now, and it's so nice to have an escape like this that can bring people joy. And not to mention the fact that, are you kidding me? We're making 22 episodes a year and we're entering our 6th season.
That's what
we are
saying.
so fully aware of the unicorn we are riding right now. It just feels impossible.
Yes.
So it's like gratitude. We're so grateful.
Hopefully it goes for the full 7. I'm hoping, right? Do we know that? Do we know? It's
We
for the full
don't
7?
really.
But we know. We're just gonna say it,
Sure,
right?
sure,
Like,
great.
The
Great, we
Joes know that they want it 7, so let's like go for
Yeah.
7. Maybe
Yeah,
go for
7
10.
seasons
Why
in a
not?
movie, right?
Why not? What do you want to do next?
Yeah, like I've got this great movie coming out at South by Southwest this year called Same But Different. It's these 3 Iranian women who wrote and have created this movie together and star in it. And it was super fun. We shot it last year in between seasons of Ghosts, and we're thrilled to hear that it got into South by this year. So I'm going down in March to Texas to see that, and I'm super excited about that. But I think the challenge is now, look, again, so many incredible things about getting a job like this, but the difficult thing is, how do I shake this character? How do I get my next job that's very much outside of Pete Martino and not Pete Martino? Like the arrow is hard to lose. Like you got to shake that off
Pun
in a major
intended,
way.
yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you do what you're doing. That's why I wanted to see, so people know you're doing the movies, you're doing the other things to
Yeah.
kind of keep people aware of what else you're capable of. And these impressions, SNL, is that still a dream? Can we
I think I've aged out.
Okay, great. So you get to be the host.
It's such a game for like people in their mid-20s. I would love, look, it was always a dream, and it was really hard to let that dream go. But it is, especially with kids and a family. I've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm like, how would I ever with that schedule? That schedule is so nuts.
We'll never say never. We'll just can't wait. We'll just stand by for when you're hosting. Can't wait.
Great.
Can't
Would
wait.
never turn it down.
Where can everybody follow along with you? Because also I need everybody that didn't already see this Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
The 14 impressions need to go because it's right up at the top of your IG.
Totally. I'm
What is
on
it?
like TikTok and Instagram. I think it's, the pin to the both of those. I'm Richie Town, RICHIETOWN on both TikTok and Instagram.
So good. So good.
Thanks,
Thank you
Alyshia. So
so much. Thank you.